Hello everyone. So this is going to be a ranking of all the Star Wars projects. I haven't seen The Acolyte, Young Jedi Adventures or Resistance, hence why they're down here. So I'm going to go through these as quick as I can because I don't want the video to be too long. So to start off with A New Hope, which is obviously going to go in the amazing tier. It's a near perfect movie. There's not really much else to say other than just it's really good. There's a couple of things like the power converters line and like other sort of dodgy dialogue like that. Overall, it's a great film. I don't really have any big criticisms about it. I think the biggest criticism people have is that Chewie doesn't get a medal at the end. And now, next we come to Empire Strikes Back, which I would say this is as close to a perfect movie as you can get. I think this is definitely the best of Star Wars. The only thing that is a bit weird is the timing of things happening on Bespin and on Dagobah. Sometimes it's hard to work out whether they're happening at the same time, because the stuff on Dagobah seems to happen over a shorter time span than the stuff on Bespin. It has one of, if not the greatest twist in the history of cinema, with Vader telling Luke that he's his father. Pretty much all of it is stellar. So there's no complaints about Empire Strikes Back. And it's also a great introduction to Yoda and has the best duel in the history of cinema, which is, of course, Yoda versus R2-D2. Over whatever the thing was in Luke's lunchbox. But no, like, Luke and Vader's duel on Bespin, whilst, yeah, it's not the most impressive in terms of choreography, just the meaning behind it is amazing. We move on to Return of the Jedi, which possibly controversially I'm going to put in the great tier, purely because I think it is the weakest of the original trilogy, but it's not bad. It's still great. There's obviously like the Ewoks, which aren't the most amazing part of Star Wars, but I don't think they drag it down that much. Now, this is where we're going to get to the controversial stuff, which is the prequels. And Phantom Menace is going right at the bottom of dreadful. I cannot think of a single thing that I enjoy about watching the Phantom Menace, because for one, it has Jar Jar Binks. Second, a lot of it has some really great performers in it. Liam Neeson, Natalie Portman, Ewan McGregor, Keira Knightley. Like, these are all amazing actors, but most of the time they're so just bland. They don't emote a lot, and it's probably because one, what the dialogue they've been given is, and the storyline is just extremely boring, and it must also be an issue with directing. And I know people love Qui-Gon. I don't find him that interesting. I would much rather have Obi-Wan as the central character for the first film. And I know the big thing people are going to be saying is the Duel of the Fates at the end. I don't think that it's not that interesting to me, because first of all, Maul is extremely bland. Like, as an opening, it is terrible if you're looking specifically at the character of Maul. Of course, I love Maul for the Clone Wars, but keeping the Phantom Menace as its own thing, Maul is, yes, he has a striking appearance, but he's not a character. And the duel I don't think is that exciting. Like the part where Obi-Wan is force pushed off of a platform by Maul and he falls down, and then he gets up grabs his lightsaber, and then just watches Qui-Gon and Maul duel for like 10 seconds, and then decides to jump back up and get into the fight. And it's like that. Like, why are you standing there? And bringing up next being Attack of the Clones. I'm putting it slightly above the Phantom Menace, basically because Dooku is a way more interesting villain than Maul, and I think the lightsaber duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Dooku, I think it's just a lot better. I mean, the Petranaki Arena is pretty good, but a lot of it's just really boring. And it tries to show Anakin as a conflicted character. Like, after he slaughters the Tuscans, they try to give him this moment of contemplation and regret, but it just comes off as him just being a whiny kid. So, yeah, I think it's not as bad as Phantom Menace, because there is at least something that I can say, yeah, I like that, but it's still not good. And now coming to the most controversial is Revenge of the Sith, which is once again going in dreadful. Weirdly, it's the opposite to Attack of the Clones. Not boring as in like nothing's really going on and you're falling asleep. It's everything is overacted and everything is boring, but stuff is happening, but you're not interested in the stuff happening. Like, Hayden Christensen has gone from not really acting much to overacting, and again, I don't know whether that's to do with his acting ability or whether it's just the direction, but it just completely fails to give Anakin a natural character arc that the Clone Wars then had to go and fix. The only thing I can say that I actually like about Revenge of the Sith is the Anakin and Obi-Wan duel crossing over with Yoda and Palpatine. I know it's a lot of people's love. They absolutely love the Revenge of the Sith and think there's nothing wrong with it. But that must be purely nostalgia. Like, from the way I'm watching it, I was not a prequel kid. I'm a sequel kid. So I guess my opinion of the sequels might be higher up because of that. So yeah, they're terrible movies, and that's where they are for me. And speaking of bad films, we come to the Clone Wars show. The Clone Wars film, not the show, and that's going in bad. Because I don't think it's as bad as the prequels, but it is still terrible. Because pretty well known, what it actually is, it was supposed to be the opening arc of the Clone Wars show, the first 3 episodes, I believe, and then George Lucas decided that he wanted a film to kickstart the show, and so they had to haphazardly attach the 3 episodes together as a film. And of course, it absolutely fails because the pacing is here, there, and everywhere. And even if you watch them as 3 episodes, they're not even that good even then, especially comparing to, say, other things that were in the first season. The other 2 3-episode arcs that come to mind are the Malevolence arc and the Ryloth arc, which are both amazing. It also has Grogu's ugly cousin in it. And now we come to The Force Awakens, which I'm putting in great tier, just below Return of the Jedi. To be honest, I think I could probably swap these around. Like, if you ask me on a different day, it gets you engaged with Rey, Finn, Poe, and Kylo Ren and Snoke. It really gets you gripped in. And now, moving on to Rogue One. Now, I debated where to put Rogue One, but I think I'm going to put it at the bottom of the great tier. It was either going to be bottom of great, top of good, because it has a lot of its main cast aren't super interesting. Like Cassian, Baze, Bodhi, like, they're not that interesting. I think Jin is a great character, K2SO is obviously a great character, and Chirrut is really cool as well. The actual look of Scarif, the design of Scarif, I think is amazing, and it looks gorgeous. Tarkin is a bit weird because of the CGI face. Also, there's obviously the Vader hallway scene, which is amazing. Now, The Last Jedi is going to be the first film in meh. Because I think there is a great film, but there's a load of not great stuff on top of it. The parts that I think are the best are everything to do with Luke and Rey and Kylo Ren, and even the stuff that goes on the resistance ships with Poe. And it spends so much time on the Canto Bight sequence with Finn and Rose, and that part is, first of all, not very entertaining, and Rose as a character isn't very good, but like everything that's done with Rey and Kylo, like the Praetorian Guard fight, I think is great, and the shock factor of when Kylo kills Snoke, it's like, whoa, what the hell? Because you expect him to be like the main villain in Episode 9, so to have him just killed in Episode 8 was really good shock factor. Now, Star Wars Rebels. I don't know if this is going to be controversial, but I'm also putting it in meh tier, below The Last Jedi. And I want to also quickly say, because I forgot to say at the start, where these placements are, the individual placements of things is very malleable. The main thing is the tier that they're put in, rather than the individual placements. The main thing with Rebels is about half of the main cast, especially early on, are very annoying, being Chopper, Ezra. Granted, Ezra did get less annoying as it went on, but Chopper especially, and also Sabine, they basically just stay irritating for the entirety of the show, and into Ahsoka, which we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, it just makes me not want to watch the show, but I think the integration of characters like Rex and Ahsoka, I think they were done decently enough, and what they did with Maul as well, I think was really well done. Now, moving on, we have Solo. And Solo was, I think, the hardest one to place. Because, whilst I think, as a whole, the movie is entertaining, it's also extremely forgettable. Like, I remember watching it for the first time in the cinemas, I got home, and I forgot 90% of the film. So I'm putting it in bad above the Clone Wars movie. Because I think as a film, it's not bad, it's just really forgettable. Han meeting Chewbacca, I think was done decently enough. And I do think the Kessel Run, I think that whole sequence is done very well. That's my main criticism of Solo, is that after you watch the film, you forget most of it. Moving on, this is also going to be an extremely controversial one, but The Rise of Skywalker, I'm putting in amazing tier. Now, I know people really hate The Rise of Skywalker. I love it. There are only two things that I can say I don't like, and one of them isn't that bad, and that is the fake out with Chewie's death. And the main thing I really hate is Rey and Ben's kiss at the end of the film. That is the one thing that I will say I absolutely hate. Finn is also sidelined a bit in this one, but it's more he's sidelined in favour of Poe. And to be honest, I don't really mind that, because Poe didn't get a ton to do in the previous two films. And the fact that she calls herself Rey Skywalker, I know a lot of people hate, and I do not understand it, because it is clearly she has no connection to the surname Palpatine. She certainly doesn't want to be associated with that family. The Skywalkers are her chosen family. So that is her surname. That is the name she is taking on. Yeah, I really I do love The Rise of Skywalker, and I think on a different day I might put it above a New Hope. Clone Wars show. I'm gonna put it at the top of great tier, because it does have some amazing story arcs. Like the Mandalore story arc from season 7, the Citadel story arc, the ones I mentioned before, like the Malevolence and Ryloth. And then you also have the story arc with R2D2 and the pit droid and the other astromechs. And you had an episode centered around R2 and 3PO buying fruit. And you've got the Martyr Sisters arc, but it is still an amazing show overall. Star Wars Visions. Now, this is the first of two films that I'm placing where I've not seen everything of it. I'm putting it in the bad category between the Clone Wars movie and Solo. I've not seen every episode of Visions, but the ones I did were just extremely boring. The only one that I actually liked was the one that was done by Aardman, the studio that does Wallace and Gromit, Chicken Run, those films. And yeah, found it boring, so that's why it's here. And now, The Mandalorian. Also a struggle to rank, because it got progressively worse and worse as the seasons went on. But overall, it's going to go in the good category, because Season 1 is amazing. Season 2 was still pretty good, and Season 3 was just really bad. They completely wasted Moff Gideon. He only really shows up at the end, and then he dies. And it's like, why? But yeah, Mandalorian overall goes here. And next up we have the Book of Boba Fett. And this is going to be controversial. I'm putting it in good just below the Mandalorian. Because I really liked what the Book of Boba Fett was doing until they chucked Boba Fett aside to give us the Mandalorian. This is Boba Fett's show. I want to see Boba Fett and Fennec. I love seeing the flashbacks of Boba with the Tuskens and how his position on power was changed because as he spent time with the Tuskens and realizing that respect is actually a much better way, because that's how he gets so closely connected with the Tuskens, because Boba respects the Tuskens and he gains their respect. I was really enjoying it. And then for the second half, it's just Mando season 2.5. So that if it had just been fully about Boba and Fennec, it would definitely be higher, might even be in the great tier. But as it stands, that's where it goes. Ooh, this one is going to be controversial, maybe. But it is going in the dreadful tier just above the Phantom Menace. I'll put it above Attack of the Clones as well. Because this show, I desperately wanted to love this show. I went in thinking I was going to love it, and it's terrible. Like, Reva as a character is not interesting, and what they do with Obi-Wan I don't like either. And there are also some parts that were just baffling, because they were just so confusing to work out. Can't remember what episode it's in, but when Leia is running through the tunnels, running away, and you see Reva find the entrance, and you're like, oh, she's gonna chase Leia through these tunnels, and then Leia gets to the end of the tunnel, opens the door, and Reva's there, and you're like, what? No, Reva found the entrance. She was at the other place. How did she, from seeing the entrance to the tunnel, how did she figure out where it went and get there before Leia? Now, moving on, we have Tales of the Jedi. Now, all three of the tales were quite odd rankings because they all have like one amazing storyline and one alright storyline. So, Tales of the Jedi, it has an amazing arc with Dooku, and the Ahsoka stuff is meh. Like, when I was watching the first episode and saw it was about Ahsoka when she was a kid, I thought, oh, this is really cool. This is going to be about Plo Koon finding her, bringing her back to the temple, and her early days at the temple. No, it is not that. it is purely just for that episode is just about Ahsoka and her village when she was a kid, and then it just jumps forward. It's like, oh, but the Dooku arc is amazing, so I put it in good tier. So next up there is the Ahsoka show, which I'm also putting in the good tier, just above Tales of the Jedi. Because I think overall, I think it is a good show. Again, like in Rebels, I find Sabine very annoying. Don't really care about her. Ezra isn't though. I do quite like Ezra in this. Thrawn is pretty good, just as good as he always was in Rebels. And I'm only realising now I didn't even talk about him during Rebels, but he's pretty good in that. I love the bringing back of Hu Yang from the Clone Wars. Always nice to see a bit of David Tennant. And I do really like Hera. Baylan is a very interesting character. Looking forward to seeing more of him. Sad that the actor died, but I think they're recasting him. Next up we have the Bad Batch, and I absolutely love the Bad Batch. Definitely in the amazing category. It does, as the same with Clone Wars and Rebels, it does have a couple of episodes that are like, meh, but it's a lot less than the other two. And Tech's sacrifice at the end of season 2 is heartbreaking. Everything to do with Crosshair, and specifically season 3, is also heart wrenching. I know a lot of people just see it as, oh, fine, but I loved it. And then next up we have Tales of the Empire, which this one I think is the weakest, and I would put it in the meh category, just above Rebels, because the Morgan storyline is the one that's meh, and the one that's actually interesting is the Barriss arc. But I don't find it as interesting as the Dooku arc or the other arcs in Tales of the Underworld. But yeah, that's where it ends up. And now, Skeleton Crew. Now, remember when I was talking about Visions and I said that there was one other project that I'd not seen all of the episodes of? That's Skeleton Crew. And that is because I knew I was doing this video. I binge watched actually these three shows. Binge watched Tales of the Underworld, Andor season 2, and I was also trying to fit in Skeleton Crew. And I could not finish it. And it is going just above Obi-Wan Kenobi. It is dreadful. Like, the first episode, I only watched 3 episodes, and after like 10 minutes of the first episode, I don't want to watch anymore. But I was like, no, I'll at least finish the episode. And I do have this 3-episode policy. Kind of, it changes depending on like the length of the series. Watch 3 episodes. If I'm not interested, then I just stop watching. But Skeleton Crew was slightly different in that after episode 3, I absolutely hated watching it. Because it starts off really cool with Silvo and Brutus. And then the remaining, like, 40 minutes of the first episode is based around the kids. And I don't care. I could not care less about any of these kids. I don't like any of them. Fern, especially, is so annoying. Every single piece of dialogue she has, I just want to punch her in the face because she's an absolute bitch to everyone. And then next 2 episodes didn't really do much to get me hooked in, because I think if they had had Captain Silvo be the main character, as was heavily promoted in marketing, he's the secondary character to the kids. And I would much rather have had this be based around Captain Silvo and SM-33. Like, even if you didn't get rid of the kids, even if they were there, but you have it so that it was Silvo's the main character, SM-33's his first mate, and the kids end up accidentally stowing away on his ship. Like, that, I think, is a way better storyline. And it was also what I thought was the storyline, but it was so dreadful I could not stand finishing it. And now, moving on to Andor. And it's going in amazing category, just below Bad Batch. It's not going any higher because the first 2 story arcs, the first 6 episodes of season 1 were kind of boring. Like, after watching the first few episodes, I didn't really want to keep watching it, but I was watching it with family, so I was like, okay, I'll watch the rest of the season. And the latter 2 arcs are phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. One of the most heartbreaking lines is when they're breaking out of the prison and just seeing Ahsoka's character say, "I can't swim," was absolutely heartbreaking. And then season 2, I think, it's just a whole lot better. Like, it did start off a little bit, but after, like, episode 2, it was like, yep, amazing. Mon Mothma, I absolutely love. She's great. And Luthen as well. Like, he is a prick, but as a character, he's amazingly well written. And even, like, with what happens to Dedra, I feel kind of bad for. Which is weird considering that she is an Imperial officer. This show, especially at the ending, just makes me absolutely hate the heads of the rebellion who are not Mon Mothma. Because when Cassian comes to them and tells them all about the Death Star, and they're just like, no, don't believe you. Why would we believe you? We don't like Luthen. And I know they're framed to be in the wrong, and Cassian says Luthen sacrificed everything, which is true because no one else in that room sacrificed anything for the rebellion other than Mon Mothma and Bail Organa. Everyone else just joined the rebellion when it suited them, because Mon Mothma spoke up about Gorman and then had to be rushed off the planet because she was going to be assassinated. And she put her own neck on the line just to spread the truth about Gorman. And Luthen, of course, just dedicated his life to trying to take down the Empire and willingly sacrificed himself. Everyone else joined when it suited them, but season 2 also made me just hate Saw Gerrera even more because he's just a little whiny bitch. Like, one thing is just what he does to Willman, which is horrific. Just the fact of, oh, just making a deal and be like, oh, hey, can you help us do this thing? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then it's like, oh, actually, no, you can't leave. You're a prisoner now. Fuck you. When it's someone who's on your side and was helping you, and how he just manipulates him into smelling the gas thing, breathing in the gas, that clearly affected him for the rest of the rest of the season. And at the end, when Mon Mothma's like, "You've got an Imperial Star Destroyer above you. We know you're on Cheddar. You might want to get out." And he's being like, "No, where you want to? Where?" And he's just like throwing a tantrum. God, I fucking hate Saw Gerrera. I really wish they would just stop bringing him back in projects. But at least in Andor, you are supposed to hate him. Overall, Andor, amazing. And then, quite underwhelmingly, we have Tales of the Underworld. I say quite underwhelming because I've not got a ton to say about it. It's definitely the best of the Tales. I think it goes at the top of the good tier. Mainly because the Ventress arc, I think, is better than the best of the other two. And the Cad Bane arc is also pretty good. It's not as good as the Dooku arc. I'd say it's probably on a similar level to the Barriss arc. That's why I think it deserves to be in the top of good tier. And I'm going to have to cut this video down a lot because I can see I've been recording for about an hour and 10 minutes. So I'm going to have to cut a lot of what I was saying. Yeah, that is my ranking. Like I said, a lot of these placements are malleable in their respective tiers. But yeah, my top 5 Star Wars projects being Andor, Bad Batch, Rise of Skywalker, A New Hope, and Empire Strikes Back. And the bottom 5 being Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Kenobi, Skeleton Crew, and Revenge of the Sith. Let me know how your ranking would be different to this. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would put these three, especially Revenge of Sith, at the top, and would put the sequels all the way at the bottom. Let me know what your rankings would be, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.